Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss.
What's going on, y'all? It's your big homie, the armchair operator, and today we're gonna talk about yet another polymer frame striker fire 9mm. I know. Another polymer frame striker fire 9mm. Yeah, I get it. But listen, this is gonna be a good one, y'all. Today we're gonna talk about this guy, the Shadow Systems DR920. Now, if you're not familiar with the Shadow Systems DR920, this is basically their full duty size 9mm. This particular one is their elite version. So think of just about almost all the bells and whistles that you can get with their full size 9mm handguns, and this thing right here has it. So we're going to talk about that. But as first thing I want to say, thank you to all my new subscribers and thank you to all my longtime subscribers. Y'all are truly the lifeblood of this channel. This channel is still in its infancy, it's still growing, and without y'all support, this channel will be nowhere. So I definitely got to give it up to y'all, my audience. Thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so much for liking the videos, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, subscribing, all that good stuff. I definitely appreciate that. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also, I just got a shout out to my shooting range right now, Guardian Training Center up in Warminster. They have been very instrumental in allowing me to bring the shooting range content to you guys. Most indoor shooting ranges that you go to, they don't really allow for recording. So I can go there and I can create this content and bring it to you guys, my audience. So I definitely got to give a shout out to Guardian Training Center. I will put the link to their website down into the details section. You know, they not only are a shooting range, but they're also an FFL, and they have lots of great gear too. They have a lot of great training classes, all that. So keep a lookout for that down into the details section. All right, so without further ado, let's start talking about the Shadow Systems DR920. All right, y'all, here we go. We got the Shadow Systems DR920. First things first, got a nice little range bag here that the gun comes in. It does come in another outside cardboard box, but we're not going to talk about the box. Let's just focus on the important part. Nice little range bag given to us by courtesy of Shadow Systems. Thank you very much. So let's open this thing up and let's take a look at the prize on the inside. And here we have the prize on the inside. We have the DR920. As you can see, this is basically how it comes from the factory for the most part. You got two Magpul P-Mags. First things first, gun is unloaded, as you can see there. Magazine is also unloaded. Gun is clear, and we are filming in a safe and controlled environment. There's no live ammunition anywhere in the review space. Okay, so with that being said, like I said, it comes with two 17-round P-Mags, and for all intents and purposes, these are basically aftermarket copies of Glock mags. So you can use the P-Mags or you can use OEM Glock mags with the Shadow Systems guns. That's one of the main great things about the Shadow Systems guns, is that there's a lot of compatibility with Glock, you know, for between the magazines and some of the other features. Maybe even, you know, some of the internals are also compatible and so on and so forth. Now, a caveat to that, it's only really compatible as far as the internals and things like that. They're only compatible with the Gen 3 Glock handgun. So if you're talking about Gen 4, Gen 5, you can pretty much forget about it. But Gen 3, you're good to go. So I just wanted to put that out there. But anyway, we're going to talk about the features of the gun. And you know where I like to start. I like to start at the top. So at the top, we got the sights. So I want to try to line the sights up as best I can on the camera. It's a little difficult, but it's kind of the sight picture that you're going to have right there. So anyway, what we have here is we have a tritium filled front sight and we have a blacked out rear. These are really good sights, and one thing I really like about the front sight here, one thing I really like about that front sight is it's very easy to pick up both in light and low light situations. So that's really good. And I believe that is an Ameriglow sight. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but basically you have a Ameriglow H3 sight. So those are really good, high quality sights. And the sights are, of course, made out of steel. Moving on from the sights, let's talk about the slide. So as you can see, the gun is cut from your optic. That's the cover plate. The optic system on the Shadow System guns are a little different than most. It's actually really good. And essentially, you don't get plate adapters with these guns. You basically get like these spacers that, you know, correspond to whatever optic that you're using, and the optic actually fits directly onto the slide of the gun, which is really good. Now the advantage of that is that it'll essentially give you a lower 1/3 co-witness with the optic, which is really great. But we'll talk about that once we get into more about that when we get into the accessory section. But essentially, it's cut for an optic, and it's basically optics ready from the factory. So for a time, I was running a Hollow Sun 407C on this particular gun actually for a while, and I took it off mainly for the review and also for the versus video that I currently have in production between this and the Springfield Armory Echelon. So definitely keep an eye on the channel for that. Anyway, moving on from there, we have lots of slide cuts and slide serrations on here. So now, if I haven't stated this already, this is their elite model. So they have several different flavors of the DR920. You basically have your elite model, which is, you know, the top tier. Then you have the combat model, which is your mid tier. And the difference between the combat model and the elite model is that I believe the combat model does not have these witness cuts in the slide, and there are fewer serrations overall on the slide itself. And they also have now what's called the Foundation series, which takes a little bit less of, you know, some of the slide work and so on and so forth, basically to bring the cost of the gun down and make it more, you know, more easier to attain on a budget. The best way I could put it, cheaper, for lack of a better way of putting it. So that we have that. And another thing we have with the elite model is we have this burnt bronze Cerakote on the barrel. But let me just pull the slide back here, and these spiral cuts, you know, so there's fluting in the barrel. And the good thing about that is it reduces the overall weight of the gun, which is the same for the witness cuts in the slide and the additional serrations and the cuts in the top and so on and so forth. Now, essentially what that means, it means that this particular gun is going to have less reciprocating mass under fire, which will translate into less felt recoil while shooting. And I can tell you, even though this is a full-size 9mm handgun, the recoil impulse is actually really good. It's lighter than a lot of other guns in its class for the reasons I just described, all the different slide cuts and so on and so forth. So that's the purpose of that. Now, we also have some really good texturing in the front here, so you can do your press checks really easily in the front and the rear. A lot of people like to do press checks or just a rack of slide from the front when they're running a red dot optic. You definitely have that option here. And moving on down from there, we have your standard Glock style universal rail up here in the front. And the reason for that is Shadow Systems wanted to maintain compatibility with Glock holsters and a lot of Glock aftermarket accessories. So the thing about the Shadow Systems guns is that if you're a Glock fan but you want to kind of step it up a notch and get some of the other features that maybe doesn't come on a standard OEM Glock, and you don't want to spend a ton of money sending your Glock out to get work done, then this would be ideal for you. Buying a standard Glock 17 and getting all these slide cuts and different things done will actually cost you more in the long run than actually buying a DR920 from the rip with all these different textures, all these different serrations and cuts and sights and everything right out of the box. So that's the great thing about this platform. So moving on from there, we also have some some thumb ledges here with some good texturing on both sides. So the great thing about this is, like, when you're grabbing it with your support hand thumb, you can really rest that thumb right on the thumb ledge, and you got that texture to really help the thumb to stay in place while you're shooting. It's actually really good, and you can tell that this gun was designed by professional shooters, just with these different, creature comfort things that they've put into the frame of the gun from the factory. That's really good. Also, we have a lot of texture here. We got texture pretty much going up nearly the entire height of the slide. Height of the grip. We got good texturing in the front. We got good texturing in the back too. So magazine release. This magazine release is not ambidextrous, and I also do not believe that this is reversible. Again, Gen 3 Glock platform, Gen 3 Glock magazine release were not reversible. We also have double undercut in the trigger guard, and that's another advantage that this has over, say, your standard Glock 17, is that we got that undercut under here, so that way you can really choke up high on the grip with your shooting hand, and you don't have to worry about this piece digging into your finger, aka Glock knuckle. Okay, and we also have some texturing right here on the front of the trigger guard. Let's see, then we're going to move. We got our magazine release here, which is not ambidextrous, unfortunately, but again, Gen 3 Glock platform. And we also have our takedown button right here. So this gun pretty much takes down like your standard Glock for the most part. I'm not going to go through the full disassembly just to comply with YouTube guidelines, but essentially all you really do is drop the magazine, ensure that the gun is clear, which we verified that it is clear. We're going to squeeze the trigger. Now when you do that, you begin to hold on the button right here, and then you just pull this back just a little bit, and once you feel it go down, it's in the downward position and the slide is ready to be removed from the gun. And then just to put the slide back on, you would just take it off and just put it back on, and you're good to go. From that point, you can remove your recoil spring and barrel and clean the gun as necessary, as prescribed in the owner's manual. And assembly is the reverse of removal, right? All right, so moving right along from there, we also have a nice pronounced beaver tail. So one thing you also don't have to worry about with the DR920 is being bit by the slide, which, if I'm honest, is something that, as far as Glocks, I've historically had issues with Glocks in the past with that. I have big hands, and Glocks typically don't have large beaver tails. So I really like the fact that the beaver tail of this gun is so pronounced, so I don't have to worry about being bit by the slide. Now, so also let's talk about the accessories a little bit. So the accessories, while we're here talking about the grip, this particular gun also comes with additional back straps. So let me get those back straps out real quick. All right, that's one. And if I could find the other one, I know it's in here. There it is. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that, guys. All right, back straps. So we got two back straps here, plus the one that's on the gun. Now, the thing about the DR920 is that the back straps actually change the angle of the grip. It doesn't necessarily change the thickness of the grip. So you can have it like with this one, You could have it to have that pronounced hump at the bottom like this here. So it would have the grip that's shaped similar to that of your standard Glock. Or you could have a somewhat more neutral grip to make it more like your standard SIG M17 P320 or something like that. Or you could have the back strap or here that's here now, which is somewhat straighter to make it somewhat similar to that of a 1911. So I like the 1911 angle. I feel like this is the best fit for my hand. So this is the one that comes installed. And the installation of it is very similar to changing the back straps on the standard Glock. You would just drive that pin out, pull this thing off, put whatever back strap you want on, and replace. I'm sorry, not that pin. It's this pin. That pin on the bottom. You would drive that out. And they actually give you a tool for that too. So it's not like you have to go and source a tool. They give you a tool to do that, which is this right here. So you just pop it out, replace, put it back in, you're good to go. Another accessory that they give you a magazine well, which is actually really cool. So here's your magazine well, and essentially you would drive the pin out. They give you a longer pin for the magazine well as well. You would just replace the standard roll pin that's in here, install your magazine well, and put the longer roll pin in when you reassemble, and then you're good to go from there. So that's really cool. The magazine well is made out of polymer, but of course it's very strong and tough, just like the frame of this gun. So you don't have to worry about this thing deforming or breaking or anything like that on you, which is good. Now, as far as other features, let's talk about the optics mounting system really quick, and we'll get to that in just a sec. So, like I said, they use these little adapter pieces. They're kind of like shims. And essentially what you do, you take the optics plate off and you install your optic of choice. Now they give you different screws of various lengths depending on what type of optic you're using. I believe they have the screws for the RMR footprint optics, and I believe they have I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what the other screws are for. But if you know anything about like optics, you know that the hollow suns also share the RMR footprint. So that's why if you have a gun that has an RMR cut, you could throw a hollow sun on there. So that's really good. So that's essentially what I had on the gun before I took it off. So that's really good. That's essentially what this is. So if you have a hollow sun, if you have an RMR, you know, you can mount it to this gun. And they actually have a chart in the manual that tells you, you know, what optics go with what screw and which spacer. And essentially the spacer, so real quick, so when you take this off and you mount your optic, there will be a little, without the spacer, there'll be a little gap between the optic and the rear sight. And the purpose of the spacer is to fill that gap so that way you could really secure that optic to the gun. Now, that's not to say that the screws can't hold the optic to the gun, no, but it's really to give it a tighter, more secure fit. So that way you don't have to worry about losing zero or any of that good stuff. So that's the whole point. It's just to give it a better fit. And I can tell you from experience, these mighty little pieces of polymer may seem insignificant, but when you mount your optic to the slide of your gun, it's a rock solid fit. So that I could assure you of that one. And the other couple things they give you some Loctite for the screws, which I think is great. I don't know too many other manufacturers that, you know, is kind enough to give you Loctite for the screws, when you know, to mount your optics securely. And we have some Lucas Extreme Duty gun oil. So this right here is good quality gun oil. I swear by this, and a lot of other professional shooters swear by that too. So that's really good. And of course you have your, you know, your customary cable locks and stuff like that, you know. But that's pretty much it for the most part as far as the features and accessories of the gun. Oh, and just talk about the trigger. So this particular trigger here, it's a metal trigger. I think it breaks like around maybe 4.5 to 5 pounds, maybe 5.5 pounds-ish. It's lighter than a standard Glock trigger, but I will just say that this is essentially a duty style trigger. So let's check the take. So that's the take up right there. You got a defined wall, and then the break and the reset right there. Break and the reset. So it feels good. It's definitely not like a competition style trigger or a trigger that's on the level of, say, a Canic or something like that. But it's a good trigger. It's great for duty use. It'll absolutely get the job done. So, and that's pretty much it for the tabletop portion of this review. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to head on over to the shooting range, and I'm going to show you what the gun looks like while I'm sending rounds down range, give you my thoughts and opinions on that, and then we're going to come back to the review space and finish up. So y'all know what to do. Meet me at the range. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the range portion of the DR920 review. We have 50 rounds of 115 grain MagTech. Between 3 magazines already loaded up. We got the target out there at 7 yards, just a regular man silhouette size target. So we're just gonna take it for a spin, and I can show you how it looks under recoil, give you my impressions on it. All right, so enough yik yak, let's get to it. Wearing shooting gloves today because I've already put several hundred rounds downrange with another gun, so hands are a little tired, a little sweaty, and a little hot too. So in case you're wondering, if you want to know what kind of gloves these are, let me know down in the comment section and I'll let y'all know. I can't remember the name of it. I think they're 1.5 millimeter high dexterity, I think. But like I said, I'll leave a link to the Amazon page where I got it from. Anyway, DR920 time. All right, y'all, let's take a look so you see what we got. All right, so here's where we're at with it. A few of them landed outside the box, a couple down there, but most of them inside the box. The good thing about the DR920, well, the Elite version that is, all those slide cuts and slide serrations reduces the mass of the slide, so it doesn't feel very snappy under recoil compared to, say, like a Glock 17. Not saying the Glock 17 is snappy, but the DR920 is going to be less snappy, at least the Elite version it is, because it's just less mass moving back and forth. All right, let's load up, then we're going to do it again. All right, y'all, we loaded up, we're going to do it again. Tight group. Frag two of them, but still tight group. Tight group. Tight groups. Let me load up so we can do it one more time. All right, y'all, last mag. Definitely hit that sweet spot. Let's check that target, y'all, see what we got. There you go. Accurate. Got a bunch of keyholes here and here. Almost shot out the middle. Pushed a couple of them, as you can see why. I have a tendency to do that. I need to work through that. But all in all, Shadow System DR920 is a great gun. Not just a great gun for the money, but a great gun, period. All right, so I'm satisfied with this. Let's head back to the review space and let's finish this up. All right, y'all, welcome back to the review space. So overall, I really like the Shadow Systems DR920. You know, it took me a little while to get used to the slim grip of the gun, and I actually changed the back straps to try to change the angle of just to see which one best fits my hands. But, you know, I pretty much went with the 1911-ish style one, and that one seems to suit me the best. And like I said, it took me a while to get used to that thin grip, but now, I mean, I've gotten a lot better with that particular gun, as y'all saw from the footage, and, you know, just by me running the gun for like the last year and some change, you know. And I think a lot of that has to come down to the overall shape of the gun plus the beaver tail. So even though it's a thin grip, like I can really get in on it and get my support hand in the proper position, and utilizing those thumb ledges with that texture really allows me to grip and maintain control of the gun, even though the gun itself is relatively flat. And I mean by flat, I mean flat like that. That plus all the different lightning cuts in the fluted barrel and everything really makes for a very pleasurable recoil impulse. So and I've noticed that versus some of my other polymer frame striker fire full size 9mm. I've noticed the difference in the slide reciprocation, and it is noticeable. That also combined with the naturally low bore axis for Glocks and Glock style guns like Shadow Systems and so on and so forth, just really makes it very accurate, a very accurate gun. So if you can really, you know, if you can practice with this gun, train with this gun, you can be very proficient, very accurate with this gun. So I haven't had any issues, like any gun related malfunctions since I've had the gun. At this point, I mean, even though this is a review, I probably have close to, if not over 1,000 rounds already. Like I said, I bought the gun, I think I bought it in February of 2022, I want to say. I think it was 2022, somewhere around in that range. So I've had it for a while. And like I said, I haven't had any gun-induced malfunctions since then. So, and of course, I mean, it's the Glock platform, right? It's one of the most reliable handgun platforms that are out there. So what do you expect? Shadow Systems just takes it up a notch. Now, the MSRP of this gun is somewhere around $1,084, I think, something like that. Street price, you can pretty much find it for less than that, depending on where you are, where you find it. But it's not a cheap gun. But at the same time, like I said, for what you're getting, you're pretty much getting a gun. You're getting a lot for your money, I think, my opinion. Because like I said, if you take a standard Glock 17, which is runs like around like 649, or just like say the $600 mark, and if you get all the different cuts to the slide, the stippling work, and so on and so forth, that's going to put you well over $1,000. You know, it'll probably put you close to $2,000 at that point, upgrading the trigger, the sights, all of that, when you can simply just go and buy this gun as is from the factory and get all this stuff right from the gate. And basically all you really need to do if you want to is throw a red dot on it and off you go. So I think it's a really good value. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. You know, guys, guys and gals, if you liked the video, you enjoyed the video, please let me know by hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. I got plenty of good content that's on its way, that's due to drop on the channel. I'm actually in the process of doing a versus video between the Shadow System DR920 and the Springfield Army Echelon. I'm gonna save my thoughts for that video, so definitely subscribe to the channel to check that out. And as always, thank y'all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This is your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and I'm out, y'all. I'm signing off.